Welcome to the Rushfield Lunch, where we
Hi.
thank you so much. We have a very extremely special edition of the Rushfield Lunch, where we have oh, the yes um, the where we have two very special guests joining us today. This we gather the great thinkers and artists of our industry every week to talk about basically what the hell is going on with the world, what's wrong with everybody, uh, and can we fix it? And today we have two people who have done in over their distinguished careers, but in the past year so much to elevate and save this world. When we talk about the problems of Hollywood, uh, they are on the other side of that question. So I introduce you, Pamela Abdy is a prominent figure in the film industry who has is a member of the board of governors for the Academy. Good day, Governor.
Good day.
And is co-chair and CEO of Warner Brothers Motion Picture Group. Her illustrious career includes roles at Paramount and MGM, and working as an independent film producer, and began her career in Hollywood as an assistant to Danny DeVito after a very promising dancing career before that. Sitting in, I think, the next room, you have adjoining offices there where you're talking to us from. The great Mike Luca has been a icon of this business since what year did you enter it? Early 90s?
Well, if you count my college internship,
I do.
at New Line, 1985. So
1985.
this is my 40th year in our business.
Happy anniversary!
Thank you.
I wasn't going to embarrass you by counting the numbers, but you've done it then.
Well, you've also written so eloquently on the graying of the industry and how certain people don't get out of the way. With great chagrin, I admit that I am a 60-year-old employee of the industry.
But what's amazing is that you were an unthinkably young president of production at New Line at age 25, I believe.
Well, 27, but who's counting? We don't have to split hairs. 27.
And years later, you remain, I think, among the youngest top executives in the industry. So, we're graying, but there's much grayer out there.
Right.
So I want to start. I'm going to try not to. I'm left to my own devices. I would just talk to you about the '90s in Hollywood forever, which is my favorite topic, and such a great era here. But I will. The present calls us. But I just want to look back at both of you were involved in these companies, New Line and Jersey Films, at the beginning of your career. You look at the list of great films that both those companies produced, like New Line, among your many achievements: House Party, Metropolitan, Twin Peaks: Fire Walks with Me, Glengarry Glen Ross, Menace to Society, Gettysburg, Dumb and Dumber, Seven, Long Kiss Goodnight, Austin Powers, Boogie Nights, Wag the Dog. I could go on. Jersey Films. Credits include Pulp Fiction, Get Shorty, Man on the Moon, Gattaca, Out of Sight, Living Out Loud, Aaron Brockovich, Ghost World, and your own film that you created, Garden State. So either of those lists each from one company is more than is more kind of out of the box sort of films than the entire industry produces in a decade these days. So do you look back at what you did and then look at Hollywood now and just sort of say, what the hell happened? How did that creativity get swallowed up somehow?
Well, you when you're living in it, you don't really think of it as an era or a moment in time. It's just your job, and you do your job, and you try to do the best job you can. Obviously, looking back, which is always an advantage, and it's probably an unfair advantage because you have hindsight. Every era kind of is specific to the needs of the time. So I think Pam and I both enjoyed a boom time, as other companies did in the '90s, because we were all feeding the popularity of DVDs and eventually Blu-rays. Like there was a need and a demand for more films and an eclectic kind of slate mix at each company, and you had independent companies kind of coming online, and existing companies thrive by just supplying more films, and that allowed new voices to enter the mix the same way they did in the 70s, coming off a period of stagnation, creative stagnation. So, the stage was set for Spike Jonze and Steve Soderbergh and Paul Thomas Anderson and Kim Pierce and Wes Anderson and Quentin Tarantino. It was just one of those times where the business needs met the emergence of new voices. And the era we're in now is just, has different needs. There's a lot of volume going on in streaming, so a lot of new voices find it easier, probably to get certain movies made than they would have in the old days, where you had there was only one way to release a movie, and it was expensive no matter how cheap the movie was, you had a certain P&A expense to get the movie shown. So I think it was a great era and a great period. I also think we're in one now. It's just the needs of the period and the way movies are being delivered, or even the way they're being advertised. It's just different. And we try to meet both the audience where they are now, and also meet the business needs of the era we're in. And they're just different. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, I think I started in 1995 as an intern at Jersey Film. So I feel so blessed, because I do believe I agree with you, Richard. I do think the 90s were a great decade. And I think what was so exciting about a company like Jersey Films is that they supported emerging filmmakers and then established filmmakers. So they could take big swings and make movies like everything from Man on the Moon with Milos Forman to, taking Steven Soderbergh coming from independent films and making studio movie with Out of Sight. And we supported, we were able to, Danny, Michael, and Stacy they were just the greatest, they were great producers, and there was this like clubhouse community at Jersey Films back in the day. And I think for me and Mike, we take that energy and that perspective from the 90s and try to apply it here today, because you still can have an eclectic slate and take big swings with new emerging voices and established filmmakers and make, a thrilling slate of movies for all audiences. So I take with me all the lessons of those early days still today, and I'm 30 years now in the business.
Now, Mike, you said something that you threw out something that I just have to. I can't let that slide. You referred to this as a great era. If you follow my writings and you hear the buzz on the street, that's not typically what people are saying about it these days. Apart from your own accomplishments there, which are great. How can you say such a thing about these terrible times?
Well, and by the way, I have to thank you, Richard, for you are a champion of movies and a champion of creative integrity, and also you try to encourage those of us on the business side to think in an innovative way that feeds and unleashes their creativity of our industry, and we really appreciate that you flying that flag, and it's the flag that we try to fly internally at our company. The reason I feel like it's a great era, I try to look at things from the audience point of view. So, and I'm a consumer myself, and I adore and love all movies and all media, and I consume all media, and it's been more than a passion for me my entire life. So when I see the choices that are brought to the audience, right now in the era that we're in, and especially seeing Gen Alpha and Gen Z, join millennials and coming online as theater goers for the first time. When we look at, and this is our lived experience inside our studio. So inside Warner Brothers this year, we surpassed 4 billion in worldwide grosses. So Warner Brothers got back to pre-pandemic grosses on 7 less movies than they had in 2019, which for us, shows a robust theater going pattern amongst a wide variety of audience demos. So the younger demos, male and female, they were all part of what made Final Destination an overperformer, what made The Conjuring, this last Conjuring, to the tune of $500 million almost worldwide, an overperformer. Weapons as an original, and how that performed. The reception for Paul's movie, it's going to cross 200 million worldwide this weekend, probably. So this reception for Sinners, we've seen audiences come out for our movies. And then if you're an audience member, you have Neon's offerings, you have A24's offerings, you have the offerings that are exclusively streaming on Netflix. You have the hybrids from Apple, of which we were one with our release of F1 with our partners at Apple who made the movie. And you have all the stuff coming out, both series and movies from Amazon. So from the point of view of the audience and what they're being offered, I do think it's a great time of great variety. And because there's so many different places to sell material or take your material or pitch your material, I do think a lot of voices, that frankly just had a steeper hill to climb when it was less options for them, back in the old days. More filmmakers can get their start in the era that we're in. So that's why I'm optimistic about where we are. A little bit of our own lived experience and how well we did with David Zaslav's, kind of label strategy at our studio. We have 4 labels. We have DC with our colleagues, Peter and James, and we have New Line. We call Richard Brenner the $1 billion man this year.
Incredible.
New Line pitched a perfect game. Thankfully, we have Jesse Ehrman at Warner Brothers, who got to almost $1 billion on one movie alone with Minecraft. He was the champion of that for a very long time, and finally assembled the right elements to get that movie over the top. And Sinners, obviously, for Warner's. And then we rebooted Warner Animation with Bill Damashki, a very esteemed animation creative exec and producer who has experience working with Jeffrey at DreamWorks. So our kind of eclectic slate mix for label strategy certainly bore a lot of fruit this year. But that's why our own lived experience keeps us very optimistic about audiences coming out for movies in the communal setting of a movie theater. I also think it's great. It's a great time for the audience to receive, so many different kinds of entertainment from so many different kinds of storytellers. And if I was on the pitching side again, if I was a producer again, or if I was working with writers and directors, the breadth of options, I think, has never been more robust. So that's why, I feel like it's a great era.
Very, very convincing. I'm not given to optimism, but I hope a bit of that can infect my veins.
Look, I get the challenges too. I get it's a challenging time. There's a lot of things going on, and we're still kind of even though we've emerged from the pandemic and the strikes are in the rearview mirror, and there's been a lot of disruption, and the you still feel like the industry is searching for its new normal. But I think the patient is healthy.
And Pam, you can certify that optimism that you feel that we are not we're not in the end times.
No, I refuse to believe we're in the end times. I think we're in an era of disruption, like Mike said. I don't have my head in the sand and think that things aren't changing and people are, there's contractions and maybe there's so many options for content and for movies and for TV shows and and TikTok and all the different avenues. But I do think it is such a thrilling time to be talent and to be around talent and to be in conversation and dialogue with filmmakers and writers and artists, because there are so many avenues to tell stories and to tell different kinds of stories, tell short form stories, tell long form stories. So I share Mike's optimism, and I still, from 30 years later, I still get excited when I sit in a room with the director and they talk about the movie they want to make. There's nothing better. And then seeing that movie for the first time with an audience, there's nothing better.
All right, we will come back around to the present. I want to wallow in the past just a little bit more. It's my favorite place to be. Just tell me about when you were both young and breaking into the business. Like, how is it different than what it is now? And then how did you describe what that world was like as you both came in through these sort of upstart companies?
Well, I lucked into 2 boom times. As an intern, when I joined New Line in 1985, the VHS boom was going on. I mean, to talking about dating myself, but initially, the studios were worried about VHS. It was supposed to end the industry. So, it's another reason I have a little bit of a thick skin when it comes to, discussions about things being apocalyptic. It's like, I've heard this story before, and the whatever drives people to experience a story communally, I do think is hardwired into our DNA as human beings. So it may take its body blows, but it goes on because I think to a human being, it's as endemic as breathing. But I entered in the 80s when initially studios had rejected licensing content to VHS. They were worried about, will this kill the movie business? And as a result, companies like ours and Vestron and De Laurentiis and Canon and New World and Atlantic Releasing all popped up to fill that niche and supply movies to the burgeoning VHS home entertainment market.
Studios were saying we're not going to give in to these VHS cowboys.
Yeah. I mean, we've all seen that story over and over again, including in the music industry. But companies like Vestron with Dirty Dancing, us with Nightmare on Elm Street, and eventually Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles all benefited from playing into the home entertainment market, and that's that. So I joined at a boom time, and it made it very fun, to be in an independent studio that was ramping up and trying to do more. It's always fun to be in a ramp up situation if you love movies and love, getting storytellers in the door and allowing them to tell their stories. And then when New Line was purchased by Ted Turner's mission statement was make more. He wanted to ramp up. He purchased Castle Rock as well, and he started Turner Pictures, run by Amy Pascal. So that was a heady time and a boom time of, again, let's ramp up, let's make more, there was the baton of theater going was being passed from baby boomers to Gen X, and you could I think every new generation wants to create their own movie stars. So there was an opportunity for New Line to go zig where the studios had been zagging and create new movie stars and work with new talent and try to bring new filmmakers. We were certainly not the only ones trying to do that, but the stage was set for that to happen because the DVD machine had to be fed and the Blu-ray machine had to be fed. So those were just two really fun. I lucked into two boom times, and now I think there's I wouldn't say the word contraction, but there's just a high bar of quality control that needs to be deployed to get people to convert to being ticket buyers. So that's a challenge we accept as happy merry warriors to make it worth the while for someone to leave their house like that. We're competing for that more than we had to in times past, but we still think it's thrilling when that works out, and it can work out.
Yeah. I think when I started out, there was a lot of production companies, like producers, and there was a lot of opportunity as a young person coming into the business because this still is an apprenticeship business. You really learn how to make movies and how to tell stories by being in the room or being near, the people that came before us. So I felt very blessed with my opportunity coming into at the time, Jersey had a production deal, an overhead deal at Sony. And there was a lot of production companies on the lot. So I would find other young, like-minded people like myself, and we were all starting out in the same way, running errands and trying to get our hands on scripts and read scripts and learn. And we were so fortunate because that generation or two before us were great teachers. So I feel that there was a lot more opportunity as a young person in the 90s for myself to learn the nuts and bolts of making a film. Whereas I think now there's so much pressure on everything and on budgets and on, getting things done on time that a lot of times the next generation doesn't get as much access as they probably did back then. At least that's my observation. And that I think was a very special time because I learned everything back then, that I carried with me today.
Let me ask you, you both, after illustrious careers as executive, you both also had careers as independent producers there. Which is the better job? And you've gone back and forth now. Which you like doing?
I mean, I've been asked this question before. It's really an answer of different pleasures. I mean, they're both incredible jobs. I mean, being a producer is more artisanal, and you're working more closely with the director and the kind of family of craftsmen that pop up when a movie starts to get made, and there's more kind of intimacy, and you're not in a volume business, and you're basically you know there to support the director and protect the financiers or the studio's fiscal investment. But it's an incredibly rewarding experience that just carries a different pleasure. You're right. You're out in the field and you're on the floor of your own movie with your filmmaker, and it's a different, just ultimate reward. And when you're at a studio, at least for me, I liken it to being part of a big family. You're really running an assembly line, the volume of it can be thrilling, and being able to program a slate and have a slate strategy, and try to be innovative in marketing and distribution, and talking about windows and home entertainment, like that whole side of things, and being able to create kind of a cool clubhouse effect with trying to draw filmmakers into your studio and give them a white glove experience so you have repeat business. When that can all work, and you feel that pride, in your studio that you've managed to string a few hits together, it's a whole different pleasure, but it's just as palpable, and we feel just as fortunate and grateful to have that experience. And the producing experience is just, there's a little more authorship, and it's just a different kind of gear for yourself, but they're both incredible opportunities to have.
Yeah. I love both. I think this has been, being at Warner Brothers has been thrilling, and doing it with Mike has been, with my partner and one of my best friends for years, has been really fun. And, it's challenging and fun, but like, we get to do so many different movies and do so many different things at one time, and really create a culture where our teams can come in and show up and as the best versions of themselves. And we try to give them all the support and energy that they need. So I love that. I love working with so many, different people and different divisions, and working with our colleagues over, at HBO or with Channing. Like, we have great colleagues. So I love that aspect of it. On the producing side, I started as a producer, so it will always be my first love. It's where I learned everything about scripts and about making films and production. And I love production. So, I love being the first to set and the last to leave with the filmmakers. And I love being in the mix of all of it. So I do miss some of that aspect of it. But I still feel like being in this job, I get all the creative fulfillment that I got as a producer. I don't get to be there on set.
You're hardcore. Like, you even like location scouting. Like, you probably even like the get on the bus, get off the bus, get on the bus, get off the bus.
I do. I love it, because I just love that idea of seeing, it's so magical. Like, you take words on a page and then go to a location and then see it come to life, and hearing how all the different craftspeople on the set are like going to make this vision come together. Like, there's nothing, it's so exciting. So I do miss that aspect of it.
I want to ask you, so what is it like? You're one of the rare partnerships. I was trying to think of another example of a partnership that is formed and gone from company to company. I couldn't come up with another executive one. So, how do you guys make that work? How does that go down?
I'll let Pam go first on that.
I'm going to ask you I'm going to ask you a follow-up within that.
Okay.
The best partnerships thrive probably when you have different strengths or weaknesses. So if each of you can say, what are the weaknesses that the other one, your weaknesses that the other one compensates for?
Oh, wow.
Big question.
Why I think we work.
Yeah.
Here's why we work.
Okay.
I was going to say, here's why I think we work. I think that we trust each other implicitly. I think that we have a foundation of friendship. So we started as friends. We started working in very different capacities. He was, when I first met Mike was when I was at Jersey Films, and we were producing a film, Living Out Loud, and he was running the studio. And we got to connect over something we both share, which is love of storytelling and love of films. And I remember meeting him for the first time. We sat in the cutting room of Living Out Loud, and I heard him as an executive, like talking about notes and all that kind of stuff, and we got to collaborate. And then over the years, we collaborated in different capacities, whether he was running a studio and I was a producer, or I was at a studio and he was a producer, and he produced films for me when I was at Paramount. So I feel like because of our shared experience and our friendship, that we work really well together. We have really similar tastes. We have really similar ambition, but we also like different things. Like Mike loves horror, which he'll talk about, and I have learned to love horror. So, and now I'm like excited by it. But I think we complement each other because Mike has this unbelievable way of being. He's excellent at marketing as well, and has a really excellent way of being macro across the whole slate of movies. Whereas I'll say for myself, some of my weaknesses, sometimes I get lost in the minutia of things and get tied up in trying to solve every little problem on a production or all that stuff. And I have to take a step back because we have wonderful people that are managing that every day. And that's like one of my weaknesses. So sometimes it's really good when I start to get lost or I start to lose my way, he'll pull me back out. The other positive thing is we always come out to our teams with it speaking as one. We any debate we have over something, we do it in our own office and we work things out together. And I don't think you can do that if you don't have the trust and friendship that we have. So that's why I think we're unique and our partnership works.
I would echo all that and add that, Pam has a strength, that and a superpower that I don't have, which is there's nothing about a budget or a schedule that anyone can pull the wool over her eyes on. It's fun for me watching producers try and some line producers try, and it's impossible to do. So I think, what's been great about partnering with Pam is when we do have filmmakers come in, and we are in those, I think the rubber hits the road at a lot of studios when you have to deliver bad news or news that wasn't the news that the talent was hoping to hear, but you want to try to find a way. We always try to approach something with, if we want to see the movie made, or if we're fielding, green light considerations from Jesse Ehrman or Richard Brenner or Bill Damashki, and you see the passion in their eyes and they want to fall on the sword for certain movies, you want to find a way to back your people and get those movies made. And if you get into conversations about budgets and schedules, you want the talent sitting across from you to know that you've done the work, you understand the issues, you're not just pointing out problems, you're bringing solutions to the table. And Pam is the best I've ever seen at bringing solutions to the table. And I think the talent really, really respects her for that.
Okay, you said one thing on in a speech I heard, Pam, that you said to make a partnership work, you can never tell the other one, "I told you so."
Yeah. Well, that was advice from the great Bob Daly.
Yeah.
So when Mike and I took the job, we had the privilege and honor of going to meet with Bob we see him often. We try to have lunch with him every few months because he's just amazing man, and what he did at this studio is unbelievable. But he said he came from a great partnership with Terry Semel, and one of the pieces of advice he gave to us was there's going to be movies that he said to both of us, Mike, there's going to be movies that you want to make that Pam doesn't, and there's going to be movies that Pam wants to make that you didn't. And if the movie works, great. And if the movie doesn't work, you can never tell each other, "I told you so." And I actually think it's the greatest advice because, like I was saying before, we lock arms. When we make a decision to move forward, we lock arms and go at it and make it the best movie we can make it and get to the widest audience possible, regardless if he doesn't understand why I want to do it or I don't understand why he doesn't want to do it.
That is great advice, and you're heroes if you can live up to it. For me, getting to say "I told you so" is the whole point of it.
Right.
like on set saying that we're not going to pay you or you have to walk to work. Something. I can't imagine that. But
Pam and I are more wired to apologize first. Like I might go to her like, "Oh God, I'm sorry, I may do this," and then she'll do the same thing, and we let each other off the hook. It's more like that.
Yeah.
So we're half an hour in, and we haven't even gotten to your amazing year here. And I want to, but before you got to that, you had to come into a studio it had a new owner. It was in flux. You had to do what any executives do when they take over studio. You have to jump on this moving freight train, and you take over your predecessor's projects, which whether you like them or don't, you need them to be the best that they can be, even though I mean, what's that whole process like? What getting your feet on the ground here, and what was that like, particularly as you came into a studio with a new owner that was very much in transition there?
Sure. I mean, I've been in that situation before. And I imagine it's like this at other places and in very similar situations. There's a period of assessment where you just kind of get the lay of the land of what's in the pipeline, what's awaiting release, which is where a lot of the money is sitting. What's been developed? What's the usable development? Is the company configured to now execute on the vision of the new owners? So we had a very exciting initial interview with David Zaslav where he decided that the company was going to pivot back to theatrical exclusively. He gave that I thought a very electrifying speech at CinemaCon and told exhibition Warner Brothers is going to go back to what it does best, which is positioning movies for global theatrical success.
This was following the Operation Popcorn.
And the pandemic, and we get it. It was a different time, and just looking forward, David had a very clear vision of an eclectic slate mix that had something for everyone, that was designed to speak exclusively to theatrical, and that was the way. Also, we were going to help HBO Max grow. HBO Max under Discovery was designed to be a global business, not domestic only. So delivering quality films as pay one opportunities to HBO Max was a big priority. And the first thing we did was just read everything and get input from Courtney Valenti, who was still here at the time, and Jesse Ehrman on the Warner Brothers side, Richard Brenner on the New Line side. And just assess. And at the time, we didn't have Peter and James yet, so we read all the existing DC development and just kind of assess what was usable, what was where were we lacking, where did we have to ramp up development, and then what was the shape of the movies that were in post and awaiting release, and we got through that pretty quickly, and then just set about adding to the development slates and getting animation up on its feet.
So I want to. I have a whole lot of theoretical questions about how do you go in and why do you listen to a pitch, but I thought the best way to approach these would be to take a few case studies from this year here, and just you just walk me through how these movies came to be. So tell me about Sinners. How did you first hear about Sinners? How did that happen? When you heard the pitch, were you like, can't do that, or what? How did all that go?
So Pam has known Ryan longer than me. I became a fanboy of Ryan like everybody else. When I saw Fruitvale, but Pam has known him for a very long time, and we got that. It was a script. It was a finished script. That we had submitted by his agent Craig Castell at WME. But Ryan, like certain filmmakers, has a very special way he would like you to read his material. When we bid on Oppenheimer, kind of punching above our weight at MGM, we went to Chris Nolan's house, and read the script there, and that's how Chris does it. Ryan had someone who works with him deliver the script to us, to Jesse Ehrman and Pam and I, where we at a location we were at, and just waited for us to finish it, and then took the script back. But I don't want to speak for Pam, but when I was reading the script and I got to that scene where it's kind of a surrealist scene where you're seeing the full history and the future of music of a certain kind of era spiral out to the past and the present, and I'd never read anything as moving and as original and as unique as that set piece, and that, and the very, very end of the movie, the very end of the script, when Michael B. Jordan's character is asked by the now grown, Sammy, do you remember that night? How did that night make you feel? And Michael B.'s character goes, for one night we were free, and I just choked up and started sobbing. And that's when, and I don't know how the reading experience was for Pam. I don't know if it's that specific, but those two things in particular, and I told Ryan, we got to make this movie. I mean, it was so emotional to me, and I just felt like it would really connect with audiences because it was so deeply emotional and would make you sob, even if you really understand what one thing was making you cry.
Yeah, I feel the same about it. Like Mike said, I was developing something with Ryan after he had shot Creed already, but it was when I was at New Regency, when I was president of New Regency. And he called one day and said, I'm really sorry. I'm not going to be able to do this movie right now. I got this great opportunity to go do Black Panther. So Ryan and I at the time were developing an original movie. So the fact that this was Ryan's, first original film, just knowing that it was coming was like, buzzing. And then to get to read the script the way we did, I feel the same way. That sequence on the page of the going through, we call it the surreal montage, but that sequence hooked me so much, and the emotion of all these characters and the emotion of these brothers who were trying so hard to be free in a time where it was really challenging just moved me. And then we got the privilege of meeting with Ryan right afterwards to talk about the film, and with Ludwig, and hearing the music that they wanted to do, the inspiration for the music, and hearing Ryan he's a visionary. He is one of the most generous of spirits. He leads with emotion. So talking about, I can talk about film with him all day long and about characters and storytelling, because he just transmits this emotion into everything he does. You look at his crew, his family, his partners with Cindy and Seb and Ludwig, they all came up together from college. Like, it's such a unique, beautiful experience working with them and working with Proximity that, Mike and I will forever feel blessed being part of Sinners.
Because you can imagine, Richard, how many times do you read something where you go, I've never seen that in a movie before, after 100 years of movie making, to come upon something so original. And Ryan had several things like that in his script. It was a really thrilling read.
Yeah,
I mean, that's how I felt seeing it. Like, this was a truly unique and different film. But I can imagine being part of a big corporation where you're not just getting to just putting on a little skid in the backyard here. Right. You have to bring the whole to try to explain what this movie is and how it works. Ryan has a great track record, but was that challenging to get the company on board and get them to understand what it was you were doing here?
It really wasn't. I don't know. I think every studio can point to original swings in their library, and it's to their credit that they can. I think Warner's in particular has had a legacy of staking filmmakers, whether it's Chris Nolan or Clint Eastwood, over the years, starting out Ben Affleck on his journey. They have I mean, I'm not even getting into John Calley's run from 1970 to 1980, which is the run that I worship and am inspired by. But the company, it was in the DNA to receive a movie like this from a filmmaker like Ryan Coogler. So it wasn't hard at all. And we do think, and we've discussed this, and we discussed it early with David Zaslav, who agrees, and we discussed it with marketing, that originality is not a negative. Originality is actually a plus in marketing if it's the right original movie. So, of course, yes, the rub is, are you picking the right originals? And it's just there's no amount of comping to other things or algorithms that are ever going to remove the element of risk from taking an original swing, and you just got to be okay with it.
Yeah.
You just got to be okay with it, and you can't torture that process, because if you do, innovation dies and the consumer moves on. because at some point they will get tired of seeing the same thing over and over again. So you just have to be up for it. And certainly when Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan walk in the door with their combined track record, I thought it was one of the least risky things we've ever done in our careers.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree with that.
But on this, on frankly any movie, the size of the bet you're making, tens or hundreds of millions of dollars on something that's going to come out years from now, which who knows what the world is going to look like in 2 years. It's
Right.
are there even going to be screens in 2 years? That would keep me awake at night.
Right.
For 2 years, it would keep me awake.
Right. We're human. I'm not saying we don't have anxiety. I mean, I'm famously anxious as a person, but the thing is, like, we kind of look at it like we're hired to preside over this incredible legacy, this studio that is Warner Brothers, first of all. So that the weight of that in a good way, of like what this place has stood for, means a lot to us in terms of what we've been given to caretake. Then, we're trying to allow Richard Brenner, Jesse Ehrman, Bill Damaschke to do their best jobs and get their labels firing on all cylinders. So we want to be very respectful of what they're passionate about. And amid all that, we do believe, based on our lived experience over the course of our careers and watching audience habits change and grow and transform and meet the times that we're in, and this is true of leadership here, and certainly true of David. The overarching kind of mission statement is, what are David often says, like, what are the movies we're going to make? What are the stories we're going to tell? What are they going to say about us in 20 years or 30 years or 50 years, of like, what did they do with their time being in charge of Warner Bros. And we kind of bring that into every discussion, along with, based on the best available knowledge, which is always subject to subjective passion and a little bit of crossing your fingers. What's the size of the audience for Sinners? What do we think when you have to put estimates down on a piece of paper to trigger a green light? How big do we think this audience is? How big can it go? With great execution. What's the downside? If it doesn't work for some reason, how badly do we think we're going to get hurt? And you certainly have data that's available to you, but at the end of the day, you make that judgment call based on your passion and your instincts and your experience, if you are experienced over the course of a long time. And we were very fortunate this year to have most of our kind of bets, work out. And that was a combination of all the incredible filmmakers, whether it was Zach and Adam on Final Destination, blowing that thing up to record proportions, or Jared Hess on Minecraft, obviously Ryan and Paul, all the filmmakers, plus what I thought were really brilliant innovations in how we sell movies, in terms of the marketing leadership that was elevated, and Jeff Goldstein, taking on international distribution, having one global head of distribution. I just think all our films benefited from real transformation at the studio this year.
So I want to ask you about, I've written 3 pieces in the last 3 weeks about ways in which it seems like studio filmmaking is in retreat in different ways. In this year, we've seen a real pullback in the number of Black directors making feature films, and the number of female directors making films, and also the kind of disappearance of the dramatic films from the entire drama genre. Why does it feel in so many ways like we're stepping back or pulling back? When on a lot of these things a few years ago things felt very hopeful, and now you look at the numbers and you're like, are we worse off than ever was? With all that talk for nothing? How do you look at all that?
We try to work it from who are the best storytellers. Either the new voices or established voices. Just who are the best storytellers that we can be in business with, and what are the best projects we can get our hands on. And I think what you're speaking to is an issue a little bit of gatekeeping and keeping an eye. We just try to tell our people to keep an eye on underrepresented voices and who are the new emerging voices that haven't gotten a seat at the table, but always with an eye towards like what we know that there's more great material than we're seeing out there. We just know it. I know it from experience. I know that it is not an issue of, are the people out there? I think there's still a little bit of an issue of like, are they getting to our doors enough? Or do they know that there's a path? Are we reaching out to allow access, at least in terms of the Hollywood system? And we have, I think next year we have films from four female
directors. Yes.
Yeah, and it wasn't a concerted effort. We just have a very open door policy, and the way it's working out for us, if you have a great story to tell, we try to make it a very approachable studio, and I think we're seeing the results. But I think everyone, should be doing that, and I think people are trying to do that. But I think there'll be an ebb and flow. But we can certainly all be doing a better job. I agree with you.
Yeah, and I think also it's about making more films, right? That's something like all the studios that are making films for theatrical experience, being able to build up the volume of your slate so that there's more movies and more opportunities to tell different stories, and taking some swings at different budget ranges with newer voices. I think there's a way to do that and still be profitable across the board, and that's something we strive for as well. It's like taking as many shots as we can to tell different kinds of stories. But yeah, we do have 4 films by women directors next year.
But also I found, with New Line in the 90s, like we thought there just wasn't the African American audience wasn't being served at all. So we started with House Party, it grew to Menace to Society, it led to Friday, and eventually, the Rush Hour franchise, which was Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker. It's good. Everyone knows it's good business. Forget altruism, but it's just good business to represent the needs of every facet of the theater going audience, and that you just have a better balance sheet if you're keeping an eye on who's not getting enough movies that speak to them, and that could be young people, that could be men, that could be women. Yes, the 10 poles are 4 quadrant. I think I'm not breaking news that the headline mission statement for every big studio is the biggest movies that can play to the most people and be the most successful. And obviously, we have ours in development and running and coming out, as much as the next studio. But our philosophy has always been, if you don't happen to have a tentpole or a legacy sequel in a quarter, don't make nothing. Take 2 or 3 original swings that in the aggregate in success could add up to $1 billion, which is exactly what New Line did this year.
And I just we are sadly coming towards the end of our time. We have our final questions coming, but I barely have touched on my list of questions. we're going to have a sequel sometime soon, I'm afraid. But I did need to ask you, just you went through this famous ordeal this year where before your films even came out, the naysayers sort of rose up and said enough is enough. And then you had what I think has got to be the rarest experience in any profession, that you had the naysayers go on record, and you proved them. You pitched a perfect game in response, and you get to. I know at the beginning. So, what sense did you make of it at the beginning, and how good does that feel on the other side of it to just have them proven so wrong?
Listen, it feels amazing that audiences showed up for all these different movies. We're so grateful to the filmmakers. We're so grateful to the audiences. I've said this before and I'll say it again. We're going to take swings. We're going to make movies that work, and we're going to make movies that don't work. The unfortunate thing was no one had seen a frame of these movies. And Mike and I and our teams and Dave, we all had the benefit of knowing what we had. But nobody was giving these movies a chance. It just was like this thing that happened, and it was, I'm not gonna lie, it was super surreal while it was happening, but we just kept our heads down and made the best movies we could possibly make with our filmmaking partners, and sold these movies to, with our marketing and distribution team. And that's all we can control. Like, we can't control what people are going to say about us. So all we can control is the work. And all we can control is Mike and I being intentional in how we show up as leaders. And that's what we did. We just moved forward, and nothing makes me happier than, like, I go to the movies on the weekends. I love going to the movies. I go see our movies. I've gone to the theater to see how Minecraft was playing. I went to opening weekend of Sinners and stood in the booth up at, Universal City Walk, watching people watch this film. I went opening weekend with Paul and Leo to see how that movie played, going to The Conjuring, going to Final Destination. Audiences showed up for the movies, and that's the most important thing. And they had the best time ever. So I feel blessed and grateful for that.
That's a much more magnanimous response than that I was.
My parents raised me that way.
Right. I agree with Pam. I'm not as evolved as Pam. Like, I wish I could tell you I had a completely thick skin and it didn't bother me at all. Of course, we're human, and it can't help but have an effect. The same way, the corollary, when everything works, there's joy in that, but mostly not even on a personal level, just that we felt that, we wanted the slate strategy to have its day in court and be given a chance to succeed, because we thought it would validate not just us, but everyone across our industry, their desire to make more movies, see more movies get made, have it be an eclectic slate of movies. Of course, we're going to service the needs of, being in the tentpole business and being in the legacy sequel business. Those are wonderful opportunities to reach a large amount of people. And we're blessed at Warner Brothers to have amazing IP. We have new Gremlins on deck. We have a new, sequels to Minecraft and Wonka 2 coming. We have, adaptations of IP I can't announce right now that are from our library that are very exciting.
It's just us here. You can
right. But we wanted the slate strategy to be given a shot. It's very validating to see the movies work, but again, it's because of the quality control that was deployed by Jesse Ehrman, Richard Brenner. Bill Damashki will come online next year with his first animated, new Warner Brothers animated feature, Cat in the Hat. All these people worked very hard to get these movies to a place where the quality control is there for the consumer to feel like it's worth their time. So that's been the most gratifying part of the year, that our filmmakers were able to score the Rotten Tomato scores and the audience scores that they got, both on all their movies. And that's at the end of the day, that's really all that matters. What came in? What did we make? Did it make the audience feel like they're having a good time at the movies? And, does it inspire anyone to do more of it? And we're hoping that it does.
Very eloquent response. In your place, I would have T-shirts printed with those negative headlines, and I would be like the Dewey thing. I would be like walking around and like, take a picture of me with this headline all day long. So,
well, as veterans, we know it's an up and down business. So, we just want to be chill no matter what's going on, and just be grateful when it works.
And listen, we have each other. That's the other benefit of a partnership. We have each other, and we can lean on each other when things are challenging, and we can celebrate each other when things are successful. And we can sit there together and reflect on all of it, and we have each other. We don't have to.
Yeah. And the truth is, it's not, we don't look at it like and David Zaslav doesn't look at it like a movie by movie or quarterly business. The way our business has worked for almost a century is, at the end of the year, you tally it up. And if you're in the black, you're winning. If you're in the red, maybe you got to make some adjustments. But, we succeeded in our goal of deploying the slate strategy and providing HBO Max, the films that it needs to continue its very successful rollout internationally. So we're just very happy that, that all that was proven to be the right strategy.
All right. Well, we come to our final question. You've been prepared for it. Hopefully, your syllabus. We close episode with our guest Syllabus for Hollywood, where you get to give your choices, reading, viewing, walks, whatever it would be that you assign to everyone who works in the entertainment industry. These assignments are mandatory. Our viewers, you will be tested on this. It does count towards your final grade. So which of you would like to take the floor first and give your syllabus for Hollywood?
Pam?
Oh, well, I guess I'm going to go with some food choices.
The most important topic
Well, I
of
love
all.
food. I'm Italian and Arabic, and food is a big thing in our house. So when I was a producer living down in Atlanta, there was a pizza place there that was one of the greatest pizza places I've ever had. It was called Antico Pizza. And I highly recommend all the film people that are living in Atlanta working to go to this place. It's like almost like an industrial kitchen. And you go in and you get your pizza and you go sit in this room where there's big ovens in there from Italy, and you eat your pizza on this like metal tray, and it's delicious. And then my one special sweet treat here in LA is you got to go to SK Donuts. Donuts are my other favorite sweet treats. SK Donuts down on 3rd Street. Those are the best, like, to get you through anything, going to, whatever you're doing in your day. If you need a sweet treat, go there.
What donut do you recommend there?
I'm just a traditionalist. I love a traditional glazed donut, and they make the best glazed donuts I've ever had.
Well, that's great, because glazed donut's the best for dipping in
Yes.
coffee. I love the dipping that you can do with it.
So cake donuts are not
too much. Too rich.
No, they're too dry. Their glazed donuts are the best, but they also have vegan donuts that are amazing. They have a vegan cinnamon sugar donut that is like one of the greatest sweet treats I've ever had. So
yeah, but isn't it true? If you're gonna donut, do you really want to do the vegan donut? Like, if you're gonna commit.
No, it's strange. I know. I agree with you. If you're gonna go for the donut, you might as well just go for the whole thing.
Right.
You're 90% of it. That's I've driven past there. I've never tried it. I'm on the way as soon as we're off the air here, and thinking of an excuse why I have to go to Atlanta soon.
Do a set visit. Do a set visit to someone. Go get the pizza.
I absolutely need to go do a set visit there immediately. Mike, what great list? Pam, Mike, what's your syllabus?
So I went traditional. So I did pick a film. My syllabus request for everybody is to go check out the 1995 documentary, A Journey Through American Film, a personal journey through American film with Martin Scorsese. Because it's even though it could have been an 8-hour miniseries, it's a pretty concise look at the kind of movies that the studio system made, and Marty is the best explainer of and connecting the dots of how and why we have classic movies today. What allowed these classics to get made? He really breaks it down of how certain directors, and we've enjoyed, he's kind of curating and helping steer TCM with Spielberg and Paul Thomas Anderson. So it's been amazing to have contact with Marty as a film historian. But this documentary, A Personal Journey Through American Film, he talks about Douglas Sirk and John Ford and, the directors of that century and certain directors of different eras from that century, how they smuggled in subversion and creativity under the noses of Jack Warner and, the studio bosses of the day, that they managed to wed commercial obligations, didn't make it homework. They understood the mission statement. These movies were very commercial at the time, but they also made them personal films. These directors, managed to marry art and commerce in a way that I still find very, very inspiring as a North Star. It's a wonderful documentary.
That's a great one. Everyone, you have your assignment. Get a donut and watch that documentary immediately. Great. This has been such a pleasure. You guys are heroes of the cinema, and you amazing careers. But your accomplishment, I think, that the thing that has moved me the most of what I've written this year was I did a piece where I took a look at what the top 100 releases would look like if we took your slate out of it. If Warner's had been hit by a meteor in January, and it's pretty. I mean, we would be talking about the end times here. So to say you saved cinema this year is not too much to say. And I'm so honored and glad to have you on. We barely got through this, so you'll
Oh,
have to come back.
Yeah, we will.
Uh,
We're honored to be here, Richard. You're such a great, thoughtful journalist for the cinema and for the business, and we're really grateful to you. So
Yeah, no, seriously, thank you very much. And on behalf of all the filmmakers we work with and all our colleagues, it means the world to us, to wave that flag for movies and for theater going. And we can't thank you enough. We're really grateful.
Well, thank you, and thank you for what you're doing and making great original films. And we will talk very soon.
Thank you, man.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.